Hello and welcome to the new Business Masterclass series sponsored by business development platform The Advertist, helping you find your next new client. My name's Keith Smith, and among other responsibilities, I am the Managing Director of The Advertist and I'm also the host of the business development podcast Fuel. As such, every day I get to speak to experts in the business of finding new clients for creative PR, advertising, marketing and digital agencies. The new Business Masterclass series is my own personal selection of the cream of the crop. Experts who have offered to share their own insights and experiences in the world of new business and business development to help you if you're just starting out in the industry and need a few pointers, or if you work in or own your own agency and need to give your new business a fresh makeover. In this episode, you're going to learn 52 things you can do to help your agency win new business. That's one for every week of the year. Our expert for this episode runs his own consultancy, Succeed. The company CEO, Brad Smith, advises companies of all sizes on every aspect of digital marketing to ensure that each vital piece of the marketing chain helps to drive sales in a more holistic way, taking lead generation and linking it to the content marketing his clients create, including email and social media. He also looks under the hood at company search activity, its internal CRM systems, paid advertising and even HR, so that they all fit into one cohesive strategy, helping them win new prospects and ultimately new clients. Brad's approach delivers 52 ways to win new business that you probably either overlook or never thought of. Vital subjects such as the value of acquisition, how to articulate your company's message, identifying client issues, communicating new business objectives internally, how to target clients more accurately, why you should stop whinging and start selling, mapping out new business objectives through the week, how to win better business, the value of losing, working with scoring criteria, how to listen to clients, and how to win before you even start pitching. This show is packed full of great tips and advice to help anyone working in new business succeed like a pro. So let's get started with 52 ways to win new business, presented by Brad Smith of Succeed Digital.
So I'm Brad Smith, founder of Succeed Digital Consulting. I run my own agency, but also advise on best new business practices for agency owners, consultants, and freelancers alike. So the purpose of today's podcast is to basically provide you with 52 top tips to help you succeed in new business. I'm not saying you need to do all 52 things. If you do, you're probably going to have a good chance of success. But even if you come away today with a few things that you hadn't thought of before, if it helps make your life easier in new business, that's got to be a good thing. So I'm going to dive through 52 tips at reasonably good pace, hopefully to keep the interest there, and so you don't end up thinking you've got to listen to a podcast for about 5 hours. So we're going to try and nail this in 30 minutes or less. Here goes. Tip number 1, stop focusing on acquisition. Yes, you heard it right from a new business person. Acquisition is not the key to your success, at least not unless you've got retention right first of all. You need to love the ones you've already worked hard to win. What is the point of winning new business when out the back door you're losing people faster than you can bring them in? So your number one priority as an agency should be focused on how to retain clients and keep clients for life. Does that mean as an agency owner, you're really going to keep clients for 10, 15, 20 or 30 years? Possibly a few, unlikely to be all. However, if client retention is your number one priority, there's a very, very good chance that you'll keep them for longer than if it wasn't. And if you get client retention right, guess what happens? Client acquisition becomes so much easier because you've got great stories about how long people stay with you for, and absolutely very few stories about how many people are leaving you to go somewhere else. So new business is your number 2 priority, not your number 1 priority. Retention over acquisition. Tip number 2, do you have a new business director? Do you have a commercial director? Do you have a new business salesperson or a sales director? Whatever the title, do you have someone ultimately responsible for new business? That's probably the problem. One person in your business responsible for all your new business doesn't work. What works is, and this is not my quote, making sure that new business is everybody's business. Now, you might be thinking as an agency owner or a freelancer or a consultant, well, the problem is that we don't have everyone in the team that's capable of winning new business. We're not all that way wired up, and that's okay. You don't have to be. Each person in the team has to understand the role that they play to contribute to new business. It might be a tiny little contribution, but that little contribution might be the difference between winning and losing. So next time you go out to win a pitch, ask yourself, what is the contribution that each team member needs to make to give us the highest success, highest chance of winning a business? Why? Because the people that are going to buy from you don't want an individual. They want a team. They don't just want to buy into a salesperson that tells them what they want to hear. They want to buy into a team of people who know how to sell and how to deliver and how to make sure that they feel like a client that's going to be loved and cared for, not just sold to, I should say. So let's make sure in our businesses that every single person understands the role they play to contribute to new business. The next thing you need to know, there's a good old term called the elevator pitch. I actually don't like that term personally myself, because I'm not being funny. If you were stuck in a lift with me and you got 30 seconds, the last things you want to probably hear me do is tell you about my agency. What you probably want to do is see if I can help you with holding the door open, or perhaps passing the shopping over, or entertaining your child who happens to be pulling rude faces at the older lady stood next to you. But putting that to one side, the main thing you need to be able to do is articulate your proposition and your positioning within 30 seconds or less. What questions will help you do that? Well, questions like this. What actually makes your company any different from every other one of the 28,000 agencies in the UK today? Why do you exist? Who cares that you exist? What happens if you're not here tomorrow? You got 30 seconds to make an impression. If as owner of the business, you can't make an impression within 30 seconds, you sure as hell can't expect your staff to be able to do that for you. Lead from the top. Have a proposition and a positioning statement that is clear. Elevate your business, elevate your brand, make sure that the people in your team understand that and can resonate with it. And then wherever you are and wherever they are, you can be guaranteed that the reflection of your agency will be nicely summed up within 30 seconds or less. That was tip 3. Tip 4. It's interesting that when you're running an agency, you realize that you sort of end up picking up problem accounts. Very, very rarely do you have someone that just comes to you for the very first time needing a brand new website or a brand new digital strategy. A lot of the time, they're actually coming to you with a problem or a challenge or a frustration that they believed they thought that they would have solved, and it hasn't been solved. So now they're coming to you to hopefully get that help. So something to remember in new business is that people probably aren't coming to you with a brand new challenge. They're coming to you with an existing problem, and they want you to be different and solve the very thing that they haven't been able to solve. If their agency relationship is broken down, if they've got a new product that they want to launch or to market, then they need someone that's going to take that problem and solve it. So don't sell them what you do. Sell them what they need. They don't care that you do SEO and paid and conversion rate optimization and UX and UI and apps and dashboarding and PR and videography. They couldn't care less. All they care about is, can you fix this single problem, this massive obstacle in my face that's stopping me from going ahead with my agency? If you can solve and fix that problem, then I want to talk to you about everything else that you can do. Fix the problem, fix the rafter, fix the giant beam or obstacle that's in front of them. Don't try and sell all your disruptive solutions up front until you've removed the obstacle out of the way first. Number 5, don't just focus on what you do and why you do it and how you do it. Focus on the impact that it makes. So think of this really simple 3-step process. When you pitch, what is the problem that you are solving? What is the solution that you are providing? And then what is the impact that working with you has? So as an example, if you're working with an e-commerce brand or a retail brand, well, increasing conversion rate, for instance, would clearly make financial sense. The agency that wins the most business for the customer or the prospect they're talking to is the agency that wins overall. It's not complex. If you just talk about what you can do, not about the impact that you have for your customer or your prospect, it's unlikely you're going to resonate with them. It's been said before, and I'll say it again. People don't care what you do, they care how what you do benefits them. You have to be pretty selfless, not selfish, when it comes to pitching. If your pitch decks start with I, us, we, me, throw them in the bin and start again tomorrow. Next thing to consider, your new business approach. Do you find that you randomly just get the phone ringing? Do you find that emails just come pouring into your inbox? Do you find that your sales teams are having an incredible number of new business leads pouring in through LinkedIn day by day? Probably not. What you probably hear is that eerie sound of silence. And the reason for that is that people don't know who you are. And if they do know who you are and they haven't picked up the phone to ring you, maybe it's because they don't like you or they don't trust you. And that's a really hard thing for an agency owner to swallow. Because if we think we're good and we think our teams are good, but people don't think we're good, they don't buy from us. So remember the 4-stage process that every agency owner should absolutely follow to the letter in this order. Do prospects know who we are? Do they like who we are and what we stand for? Know me, like me, trust me. Do they trust us? Do they trust that we can deliver what we've sold? And then the 4th step, once someone knows who you are, likes you and trusts you, there's 2 options that they're then left with. Can they help you, i.e. refer you into someone who needs your services, come back and buy from you in the future? Or if they can't help you and they want to buy from you today, the only way they're going to do that is if they know you, like you, and trust you first. So if your phone isn't ringing, if your emails aren't flying in, and if you're not getting many referrals, put some energy and effort into getting known, getting liked, and getting trusted. It's weird that in today's day and age, being nice is a USP. Ask yourself, as a team, as a C-suite team, are we nice people to deal with? Or are we arrogant, cocky, self-obsessed? Because I'll tell you now, it loses your new business. Next step, you need to not be afraid to publish your goals within the team. How can you hit a target that isn't there? How can you hit a moving target? Are you the sort of owner, MD, CEO, C-suite chap, or lady for that matter, that thinks, well, we'll start with this and then when the team hits it, we'll move the goalposts? Or you publish your targets as to where you want to get to, but they're not clear and they're not precise. Your team, especially your new business team, need to have clear, precise goals, something to aim for that is not movable, something that they can hit and achieve and go beyond. So when you hit clear, precise goals and you create targets, make sure that from a new business perspective, you're not changing them, regardless of how successful your business goes in those 12 months, halfway through the year. You will drive capable new people, business people out. You'll frustrate members of staff because it will look like you didn't get your planning right in the first instance. When you get to the end of your 12 months, realign, sit down as a team, and then ask, why do we think we did so well? How could we continue to do that next year? That's so much more motivating than moving the goalposts halfway through and making everyone feel demoralized. Something that's often talked about in new business, the next step is around targeting. It's no secret that you need to target and think about the people that you want to go after. So how do you go about doing that? Well, you need to identify and talk internally about the types of clients that you actually want. And yes, this is a choice. Now, your choice might be, if you've got a budget, a pulse, and a project, we'll talk to you. And if that's your criteria, that's absolutely fine. However, you might want to go after specific sectors or specific industries. You might want to go after specific companies or job titles. But the point is, you need to have a focused target. Are you going to own a single space? Are you going to own a type of industry? Are you going to own the solving of a specific problem? Once you've identified and published internally the clients you want, you have a really good chance that you can then get the team to buy into creating case studies, references, testimonials, content, SEO optimized driven keyword strategies that drive people who are looking for that type of agency into your business. Next step, you need to make sure that you then don't be afraid to narrow down that list. ask yourself not just who do we want to work with, but who don't we want to work with? Why don't we want to work with them? Why would winning this business be a problem for us? What impact could winning this business have on our business, and what could it prevent us from winning tomorrow? Now, of course, those questions are so much easier to ask when everything's going well and the volume of revenue is flowing in through the door. But what often happens in a recession or in a land grab mentality moment is we chase every prospect. We become unrealistic in our targeting. We go broad brush and we work with anybody that we think we can. And in doing that, we dilute our proposition, we dilute our positioning, we end up with a mishmash of projects and criteria that are very, very hard to manage across a team. And before we know it, we don't have the references, the testimonials, the happy clients, and the lifetime value that we discussed at the beginning is so important for client retention. The next thing you need to do, develop a really powerful way to approach prospects. Now, you'll read lots and lots of advice around inbound, outbound, digital marketing, targeting, referrals, LinkedIn, email. Whatever your preferred strategy is, whatever your tool is for reaching people, you have to make sure that this one thing always remains true. When you talk to a prospect, regardless of whether they've called you, been referred to you, or you've outreached to them, you have to make them feel special. They have to feel unique. They have to feel like the only person that you've spoken to or emailed that day. Blanket, carte blanche, emails, messages don't work. You need to make your message individual, eye-catching, and most hard to do, but try and make it original. Now, if that means you need to add some humor, a sense of personality, a cheeky comment or two, a compelling hook that just puts a smile on someone's face, whatever it takes to stand out as different, don't be afraid to trial it. And if you understand your tone of voice as a business and you understand how you want to come across, actually that becomes much easier to do. So ask yourself, what is the way we want to approach prospects, not just who are the prospects we want to approach? Because once you've defined your target audience, then it's about approaching them in a way that resonates. Remember that marketing is not about pushing your message out to other people. This is what we do. This is how we do it. Aren't we amazing? Come and buy from us. You want to create pull marketing, not push marketing. People want to feel that working with you, your team, the way you speak, the way you think, that's what I want to be a part of. You want to pull people in like a giant magnet, not detract them from your message because it just sounds like you're saying the same thing to everybody. Once you've got that right, and there's quite a few tips in there already, and I'm hoping that so far some of those things have resonated with you and that you realize there's probably some room and areas for improvement, because most of us can improve on something or other. What you then want to do is ensure that your pipeline of new business is split into 3 very simple segmented categories. So this is pipeline management. And when you manage a pipeline, split it into short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Now, this is going to vary from agency to agency, but one thing that I've always found to be really valuable is to say short-term means that within ideally 0 to 3 months, I'm expecting that to turn into a deal. That could be a deal for me, a deal for a competitor, or it may be that it looks like it's going to come through and it actually turns into nothing, but right now it feels like something that should close in 0 to 3 months. Mid-term pipeline, 3 to 6 months, long-term pipeline, 6 to 12 months. If it's outside of 12 months, that pipeline, you might want to question whether or not that really is something you should be managing as an active opportunity or something that should go back to marketing to be managed as a marketing qualified lead, kept warm until such times where there is a real project with a real budget and a real time frame associated with it. So short-term, mid-term, long-term pipeline. Perhaps have a look at your own pipeline. Have you got a raft of names, things that are going to drop at some point in the next 12 months? Split them down. Identify how many of those are going to drop within 30, 60 or 90 days. Understand where your gaps are now and how to fill them quick. Look at your midterm pipeline and ask, well, are we putting time and energy and effort into things like webinars, creative content, strategies, assisting businesses with things that means that we'll get top of mind, top of funnel now, so that for 6 months' time, when that project does become a real thing, we're actually someone that they then want to consider that they could actually work with. So definitely split your pipeline into short-term, mid-term, and long-term, and you'll find it really helps you focus on where your gaps are. Next one, I'm a big believer in this. Just stop whinging. Like, there's enough in the world to whinge about. I mean, honestly, we can whinge about COVID. We can whinge about war. We can whinge about the news. We can whinge about the weather. I mean, there are so many things we can complain and whinge about, and there's good reason why some of these things make us feel sad, depressed, and complain. But you know what? When it comes to agency life and new business, there is never just a problem. There is always a solution. Every challenge that you face is an opportunity waiting to be discovered and waiting to be solved. Every company has its limitations, but finger pointing, telling people in your business what they did or didn't do or should have done better, doesn't actually help anybody, especially when people are already under stress. Bring those people together, look at where you're doing things wrong, and then focus on what you need to do better. Can you imagine if the client was in the room after you've just pitched to them and they were a fly on the wall, and they're sat with you, and then they hear you whinging about how difficult it is to work with them? But has anyone ever actually approached the client and explained how the relationship could be so much stronger, the team could be more in love with the project if that were to change? Do you whinge about the client behind closed doors, but they've never given the opportunity to actually tell them to put it right? So ask yourself, are we a whinging bunch? If we are, stop complaining, stop whinging, start fixing, provide solutions, don't give me problems. Next thing, what have you done to win new business tomorrow? What have you done to win new business today? If there's a sign that could be up in your office and it was, how are we going to win more business today? How are we going to win more business tomorrow? And every single time you saw that sign, how would you answer it? Well, it would have to be part of your routine, wouldn't it? You don't get up in the morning and think, oh, should I eat breakfast or should I have lunch or should I have dinner? Well, I'll see if I can make it the whole day and without starving. We put things into our routine that we know are important. New business has to be a routine. It's always about the quality, but it's also about the quantity. If you don't have new business meetings coming in, if you're not sending out emails, if you're not doing webinars, if you're not building relationships, if you're not having one-to-one referral discussions, if you're not building partnerships, the chances are that today you're doing nothing to win new business, which means that tomorrow you won't have any. So it starts today. What are you going to do from today to win the new business of tomorrow? And then you won't be one of those agencies, and we won't be one of those agencies whinging that it's not coming in. Good question to focus on. What have you done to win new business today? What are you doing to focus on winning new business tomorrow? Another important thing that I found really, really valuable in winning new business successfully is don't make it all about the knowledge. There's a lovely quote I heard many years ago, and it's always stuck in my head, that knowledge and wisdom, what's the difference? Knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. And when it comes to agency life, it's not just what you know, it's what you do with the knowledge, the difference. Do you learn from the pitches you lose? Do you learn from the proposals you don't win? When we lose business, which inevitably happens to even the best new business people out there, if you're humble enough to learn why you lost, what you can do better next time round, you will learn from that experience. It will shape you, it will refine you, it will make you a better version of yourself, it will make your team better. And then when you go into that next time round, you go in stronger because you know what you lost out last time on, and you know what not to repeat and what not to do again. So the next time we lose business, don't give it the, well, you know what, they already had made their decision. Yeah, we came second. Well, second place is first loser, so we still lost. The fact is, when we lose business, let's take it on the chin. Some of the best business I lost helped me win better business tomorrow because I learned from where we've gone wrong. So what is your pitch debrief process? If you put the time and energy and effort into an RFI, an RFP, do you put the same level of time into finding out what you need to do differently next time? If you've done a face-to-face pitch or a Zoom pitch and it didn't go quite as well as planned, have you managed to book in a session to actually find out what you need to do differently? Well, they're little things that we can put into the process to really help. When it comes to pitching, on the subject of pitching, you've got to make sure that someone in the team is in charge. Doesn't have to be the owner or the founder. You need a pitch lead. Pitching is about teamwork, as we said earlier on, but it's also about having someone own the problem. So internally, next time you're running a pitch, who's the pitch lead? Who's the pitch team? Let the lead lead, but let the team support. Make sure you've got someone in charge to do that. Next tip, making sure that you understand how your audience likes to be sold to. Human psychology is a fantastic thing, right? Trying to understand, engage in a pitch, what you should say, when you should say it, how you should say it. For me, that's part of the fun in new business. But understanding your audience and how they like to buy is a skill that comes well before pitch. If you don't know every single person that's going to be in that room before you pitch to them, I would say don't rock up to the pitch, because you'll be working out on the fly how to try and sell to them. If you've met the people, met the team, find a reason to engage before the pitch. If it makes you look stupid because you're asking questions before the pitch, that's great, because you'll be able to gauge what those people are like. So have you put time into your calendar to do a pre-pitch, to do a question session? And if they won't engage you at that level, maybe ask yourself, is this a pitch that we should actually be going for in the first place? There's one thing that will help you win more times than probably any other piece of advice I could share with you. Every single client that you pitch to has an obstacle, a problem, as I mentioned earlier, or what's referred to as the winning formula, the thing that they know if you do that one thing, they're going to find it really hard to say no to you. Now, if you're going out, for argument's sake, to purchase a brand new car, and the cars are the same price, and you like both the two brands you happen to be considering, and one says, for this month only, you're going to get heated seats, and you've never had a car with heated seats, and the thought of heated seats would be so good, which car are you going to choose? If all things are equal, the heated seats could swing it. Even if all things aren't equal, if your key primary purchasing motivating factor for buying a car is heated seats and one doesn't have it, you could disqualify a very good car because it doesn't do the one thing you really want. Humans are funny beings, aren't we? We buy into things, we get hooked and fixated on things. So what's the one winning element that the person you're about to pitch to is looking for? Don't do a deck going in thinking you know. Ask the question. What's the one thing you're looking for from your next agency? It's one of the most simplest questions you can ask in new business, like ever. And it's incredible how many pitches I've sat in and it's never been asked. And the pitch goes in, wonderful, fantastic PowerPoint, Google Drive, Google slide presentations. The client's supposedly meant to be wowed and they've only sat through 17 PowerPoints and they're trying to look polite. And at the very end, they say, well, the one thing that we sort of really hoped you did, you just saved yourself an hour and a half of a pitch presentation. Understand the one thing that's going to absolutely blow their mind and make them come and change to you. And with that knowledge, you'll stand out as different. Now, you also need to understand who you're up against. Some people care a lot about their competitors, others couldn't care less. But if you know who you're up against, even if you don't know exactly who the brands are, you get a feel for the level of diligence and research that your prospect has gone through. Are you up against systems integrators, neuro marketing agency, digital marketing agency, branding and design agency, creative agency? Who are you up against? What type of people are they expecting to turn up to the pitch? If you're up against creative and branding agencies and you're a systems integrator and a build agency, are you in the wrong room? Or have they just totally misconstrued who they should be having? Understand your competitors, because then you know whether or not you need to change your conversation to have a chance of winning the project. Next thing, incredible how many times people go to a pitch and there is a scoring criteria. And this magic scoring criteria never comes out. You never get to see, unless it's a public RFP, what the scoring criteria was. Ask the question before you go in, is there a scoring criteria by how we're being assessed? If the answer is yes, before you agree to pitch, ask to see it. Because then you'll know whether or not you're going to score favourably or unfavourably based upon the criteria. It also means you can prepare your presentation around the scoring criteria. Now, if they turn around and say, we don't want to share that with you, you can say, okay, that's fine. May I ask why? We'd like to know what the criteria is because we'd like to be in a scenario where we can make sure that everything we show you is highly relevant and we answer all of the key pertinent questions for you. If it's like, well, you know, we're not sure that that's fair, please share the scoring criteria with everybody to make sure that it is. So if there's a scoring criteria, understand what it is, understand how it's weighted, and make sure your presentation is designed to meet it. Next thing, when you meet with a client, listen first, talk after. And whatever you do, if you're going to talk, and most new business people are good at it, don't turn it into a lecture. Listen, talk, listen, talk. Listen, listen, talk. Never lecture. Next tip, try and win the pitch before you've even got there. Some of the funniest pitches in the world are the ones where you walk in the door and your contact literally says, really nice to see you, can't wait to see this, been really excited about this one, obviously we're hoping it's going to work out well. I mean, you're feeling warm and buzzing, you've not even sat down and offered a coffee and you feel like you've nailed it. Now that's not going to happen every single time, but if you put the time, the energy and the love into the pitch before the pitch, understand the brief, build the relationship, have 2 or 3 meetings prior to the pitch, you have a much greater chance of building a rapport, building a relationship, getting them to know you, to like you, to trust you before you've even sat in the room. Think about how you win their business and you win their hearts before you're even in the room. Next thing, this is an old saying, but it's so true in new business. People buy people. They're not buying the features, the benefits, they're buying you, the individual, you, the team. So the people that are in the room need to have some chemistry, which means they need to know the people who are in the room to have chemistry with them, which means they need to be prepared, which means they need to put time, energy, and effort in, which means that you and I as agency owners need to give them the time. So last minute crazy pitches the night before, staying up till midnight to prepare for something ain't gonna cut it, because that's not chemistry, that's madness. Build the time into your agency for your new business people to build relationships, because relationships is what makes sales. People buy people. Next thing, what's your contact strategy? There's an old saying, friends, lovers, strangers. Friends, strangers, lovers, the other way around even. So how do we move people from friends to strangers to lovers? Well, that's about having a contact strategy. You need to know who the contact is that you want to turn into a lead that will then become an opportunity that will then close. Too many people think of businesses not as individuals, but as brands. We want to work with Pepsi. We want to work with Nike. The person you're working with is the person sat in front of you in the room that holds the position, the purse strings, and the ability to sign off or not on whether or not they like your ideas. People buy from people. What is your contact strategy? Who are the contacts you need to get into in order to get into the brand you want to work with? Don't think brands, think people. Work late at the beginning, never at the end. Last night mad rushes sometimes can work. Okay, we've all done it. We've all had a pitch. We prepared it the night before. We've stayed up and we've managed to pull it through. And then we think, yeah, wow, we can do it. And you win one. And you think you're going to nail it for the rest of your life, and it doesn't happen. Whereas when you work really hard and you work later at the beginning, you realize that leading up to the pitch, you put the time in, the preparation and the planning. Clocking up the hours at the beginning of the period gives you a head start over all those other agencies that left it till the last minute to run it out. And you know what that does for your team? The team builds confidence from the very beginning of the pitch process that they're covering and they're gaining ground. So by the time they're in the meeting, having to pitch it, it's in their blood, it's in their DNA, it's in their core. You feel it in the way they present because they didn't make it up the night before. Next tip, talk less, not always easy. I can speak, from personal experience on this one, and listen more. All the time we're talking, in theory, we're not listening. We're certainly not listening as well as we could be if we were to not talk at all. And it's interesting that when you're a business leader, you often want to lead. When you have a strategic or a creative mindset, you want to give strategy and creative ideas. But just sometimes, the best way of giving the best strategy or the best creative or even the best pitch is to make sure you've absorbed and listened with these 2 ears that we've been given, every single thing that matters to the person that we're prospecting to. It might just be that by interrupting and by not listening, that single one thing, that winning formula, that winning element, we miss out on, and a better agency that just knew how to listen wins the business. Imagine if the only difference between you winning 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 was if you had to listen more. Remember that as a little rule. The difference between winning 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 is all you do is listen more. Next one. Prepare your list of questions and make sure you've got loads. The clients love it when they send you a brief and you come back with, love the brief, this is fantastic. I've got a few questions. Can we jump on a Zoom call and talk through them? I think I've got about 26 I need to run through with you. 26 questions. I thought we did a brilliant brief. 26? Well, what's he going to ask? I don't know. But if he's got 26, I thought we did a good job. We need to make sure it's covered. We'll jump on the phone. Honestly, ask as many questions as you can. It doesn't make you look stupid. It makes you look interested. The agency that says, yeah, we get the brief, we've understood it, we'll do a proposal, just missed out on the opportunity to build the relationship and the rapport with the client that you're not going to build the rapport with. Because you've got a list of questions, some of which are obvious, some of which are thought out, some of which are very in-depth that they didn't even think they'd get asked by an agency. And now they're intrigued and they're interested and they're curious in what you're going to come back with. Building a relationship, building a rapport. Always have a list of default questions. Always. Next one, understand the business problem. The client has briefed your agency. Your team comes up with a superb solution to every part of the brief. And so then you know you're just going to win the pitch. Or do you? Have you understood the business problem, or have you prepared a brilliant pitch? They are not always mutually aligned. Focus on the business problem, the solution you provide, the impact that it will give, and bring that to the front of your deck. So if they only remember 3 things, they remember you know their problem, you have a solution, and you know what the impact is. They can fall asleep for the rest of the pitch, knowing that in those 3 slides, they know what you're going to do. Then pitch after you've dealt with those 3 things. Because understanding the business problem is all they really care about deep down. If you can go into a pitch understanding their competitors better than they understand them, the level of elevation this gives you in a pitch process is phenomenal. I've sat in meetings before where we've understood the market share of competitors and they're sat there thinking, we don't even know this. How do you know the market share of our top 3 competitors and how we're going to leapfrog number 1 and number 2 and end up in 2nd place within the next 6 months? Well, because we did that thing called research. What is my competitor going to do next is one of the questions that will be keeping your prospective client up at night. Imagine going into a meeting to tell them this is the likely thing your competitor's planning to do next, and here's how we're going to leapfrog them. Imagine the value you're now adding in a pitch. So understand your client's competitors better than them. Next thing, please, please, please don't say we're a disruptive agency, not just in the first 1 or 2 slides of your pitch, but in your pitch at all. Because you know what disruptive means? It means you're a pain in the backside. And what people want is for you to answer the brief. In new business, sometimes we get a simple brief and we go, well, this is simple, we better add some complication in. No, we don't add complication into briefs. We take the brief, we say what you've asked for is really simple, here's how we'll tackle it. By the way, once this is done and we've solved that problem, given you the winning formula, shown you the impact of why working with us is going to be great, we've got some other ideas. And if there's time, we'd love to talk you through 7 other things we think that would really benefit your business. But if there's not time, we won't take time out of answering the core problem for you. Prepare that, have it in your slide deck, and when time allows, they'll be chomping at the bit to see what the 7 things are after you've answered the brief. Next thing. It's less about the exam and more about the process. This is a quote I heard probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it's always stuck in my head. It's not a quote I came up with, just to be clear. When you're planning to do a pitch, when you do a pitch the night before or within a couple of days, you don't give yourself the time to have eureka inspiration moments, which means you don't put your best foot forward. This is not an opportunity in pitching to night cram the day before. Work and as hard as you can in the hope that you'll remember stuff that will work for the next day. This is about educating yourself over a period of time, embedding that knowledge into your mind so that your creative spark, your innovative ideas, your ideation moments come sometimes weeks before, and then get refined over 2, 3, even 4 weeks leading up to the pitch. So then when you go into the pitch and say, we've been thinking about you for the last 4 weeks, been thinking about some different ideas, show them what you came up with that was rubbish. Nobody does that. Clients love it. Show them the stuff you went through that you threw away. Show them the workings out, because in an exam, you get graded for showing your workings out, even when the answer's wrong, because you know what it shows? Effort, integrity, preparation. That is what they want to see when you pitch to them. Next one, show them that you're hungry. If you're going to compete and win new business, leave behind the tired, drab, unenthused, no fire in your belly type people. If you haven't got fire in your belly and you haven't got fire and you're not hungry to win it, don't rock up, because you can be guaranteed that someone else will be hungry. Someone else will be eager. Someone else will be enthusiastic. Ask yourself the question before you pitch, how much does my agency really want this business? And if the answer is not that much, politely decline, because it will come across anyway in the way in which you pitch. If you really want it, you'll go the extra mile to be the best you can be, and they'll feel it, they'll sense it, and you'll have a better chance of winning. So now let's sort of summarize into the pitch itself. The 30-minute thing's gone out the window. I'm going as fast as I can. Orchestrating the meeting. Imagine that a pitch is a performance, and you are the orchestrator of that performance. You have an opportunity to control the play, to create an experience that leaves a really nice, memorable, well-tasting feeling in the mouths of your prospective clients. So make it fun, make it enjoyable. Don't be tied to your notes. Don't have everything written on the screen. If you don't have to open the laptop and you can just show them the passion and the understanding and the way you feel about their business, even better. If you need to use your visual slides, use your visual slides, but whatever you do, don't be note bound. Talk from the heart, not from the head, because that is what people buy into. We talked earlier on about having a pitch lead. That's really important. But when it doesn't go well, who's your pitch doctor afterwards? You can use someone external like me to doctor your pitches, or you can use someone internally who's non-emotionally engaged to doctor those pitches, to ring back, to ring up, to get the feedback, to ask the team what they thought in isolation as a collective. Where can we improve? Where could we do better? That person, though, has to be someone who can put themselves in the shoes of your prospective client, who've been part of other presentations in the past, and who can really see where you could have done better, where you should have done better, or where genuinely you think you've done all you can and you've got nowhere left to go. Doctor your own pitches, be ruthless, be honest, refine, understand your strengths, emphasize them, know your weaknesses, and fix them. That will help you with future pitches. Do you make sure when you pitch, you have someone that's going in with strategy? This ties back into an earlier point I made. Strategy is great, ideas are great, innovation is great, but never before you've solved the problem they have. But make sure that you've got someone in your team when you pitch for new work that comes up with something that the client hasn't thought of at the right time. People love a great idea that you can throw in for free, or a couple. And if they don't go with you, don't be the whinging agency that we mentioned earlier that says, see, they even took our ideas. Be grateful that they know that they were your ideas. And when the time is right and the agency that they thought was going to be the best one doesn't do a good job, they'll remember where that idea came from and they might just come back to you. The next thing, who are you going to take in? If you're picking people for a film and you want to put forth your best cast, you think about the roles, you think about the people, you think about the characters. Pitching is no different. You're only as strong as the weakest person in the room. And that's not to imply that people in your team are weak. It's that the strength of your pitch depends on the strength of your team. So your responsibility as an agency owner is to train, to mentor, to teach, and if you can't do that yourself, to bring someone in who can, to get your team to be the best versions of themselves. Teach your team how to be enthusiastic, to be hungry, to know how to read body language, to know when to shut up, to know when to listen. If your team can't do that, you will give away pitches that you could have otherwise have won. Make sure that every single person that's in that room knows the role and why they're there. If someone's in a pitch and they're sat there silent for an hour and a half, what value did they bring to the meeting other than a person in a seat? If you're questioning the value they brought and they're in your team, imagine what the value is being questioned by the client who's seen that team member sit there and say nothing. Don't have anyone silent in your pitches. Either don't take them or give them something to say and make sure they know what it is they're going to do and why they're there. Make sure when you've got ideation, innovation, strategy, package it up in a way that is exciting. Good ideas, unfortunately, don't just sell themselves on their own. Sometimes they need to be presented visually with the client's problem clearly defined, the solution shown, the impact shown, and why your strategic thinking or idea is the best way forward. If you package up that thinking, package up that ideation, that might be through word clouds, post-it notes, Miro board, visualize the processes, take photos of the things you've done internally and show them how you've been thinking about them outside of the pitch. Clients love it. Next tip, don't present good, only present great. Because good is okay. Good's the acceptable. Good gets you further than the bad experience they've had. But great experience is so much better than good, adequate work. Go in with something great and you've got a really good chance you'll win. Go in with something good and you'll just be another one of those agencies. Next thing, case studies and testimonials. Your case studies and testimonials are not there to make you look brilliant. Shock horror, I thought that's what they were for. Case studies and testimonials are there to highlight the strengths of how you work with people, how you make people feel, the results that you generated for them. Using simple, everyday human language, writing success stories, talking about how you helped others, not a debrief on the ins and outs of the project timeline and how long it took and all the problems that the client had and how amazing you are, but focus in on your library of experience and how it benefited the customer. What problem you solved, what solution you provided, and what impact it had. Next tip, make sure when you are leaving the pitch, you don't have that horrible scenario in your brain where you think what happens next. And we've all been there. Or they think what happens next. And you sort of go, well, thanks for having us in. We'll look forward to hearing from you then. Have a clear recommendation as to the next steps. They don't always want to be led or told what you're going to be doing, but they at least want to know what your expectations are around the next thing. So when you're about to go and do a pitch, why not, as part of your recommendations, say, regardless of whether we win or lose, and we hope it's the former, not the latter, we'd love to have a debrief session with you. Can we book that in, please, for a week after the pitch so we can have that pitch doctor session and really understand where you liked us and what we did well, or where there's room for us to improve. Nobody likes an egotistical agency. Everybody likes a humble agency. So make your recommendations clear, book those things in the process early on. The next tip is to make sure you rehearse. Rehearse, 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 especially if you're someone that doesn't find talking in front of people that easy. Give the people that need the time to practice time to practice. Next tip, if you're given an hour for your presentation, do your best to keep it to an hour. In fact, make noticeable attempts through the course of your presentation to say, look, I'm aware we've got about 10 minutes left. So what I want to do for you is cover off this in the next 5 so that then in the last 5, you can do this. Signpost clearly that you're aware of time. That shows respect for people who are in the room. Last few things to wrap up. Have questions that you ask in the pitch that give them something to do to have to get them to come back to you. This continues the dialogue beyond the pitch. Encourage dialogue. That's such a simple but so important and often forgotten tip. Create questions that they need to go away and answer to encourage dialogue after the pitch. Don't go into a pitch assuming that you are the best. Go into a pitch assuming that you're one of the best, and that's how they see you. They've brought you in with 2, maybe 3 others, and you're in a pool of agencies that they feel are really, really good. What you've got to do is go in knowing that the competition are probably just as good as you. And then once you understand that, You might say, well, we need to take some more risks. We need to be a little bit more experimental. We need to understand what we need to do to differentiate ourselves from the competition. Although there are no prizes for coming second, not assuming you're the best keeps you humble, keeps you learning, and makes sure that you prepare well for that presentation. Last few tips. Choosing an agency, it's actually quite a hard decision when there's so many agencies out there. So if they can find an easy reason to exclude you, they will. So this tip is simple. Don't give any reason to exclude you from the process. Don't be difficult. Don't be overtly disruptive. Don't be arrogant. Don't be egotistical. Don't be unprepared. Do research, do prepare, do plan. Because otherwise you're making it easy for you to be one of the ones that is not in the final 2 or 3. If you're going to leave a leave behind, please make sure that your leave behind is worthy of being left behind and doesn't become the office coaster for the next few weeks. There's nothing worse than leaving behind business cards or product material or brochures that don't represent you in the best possible light. Remember, when you're not there, that's the reflection of your brand. So better to leave nothing than to leave something that brings your business down. Quality leave behinds, excellent. Poor quality leave behinds, don't bother. When you leave a pitch, you get in the car, you jump on the tube, you get on your train, you walk away, whatever. You know that conversation that happens. Remember to have it when you're away from the building. I know of a couple of scenarios, which shall remain nameless, where people have had slating commentary in elevators, walking downstairs, walking out of doors, and they have been heard by senior people within the business, and they lost the business because of what was said. So when you've got a view or opinions, positive or negative, save it for a confined private place where you're not going to get wrapped across the knuckles for saying something you shouldn't have said, whether that's overtly positive and cocky or perhaps even worst case scenario, negative. Last 3 things. There's an old saying in opera, it's not over till the fat lady sings. And what that simply means is it's not over until it's actually over. Even when you've walked away from the pitch and you feel that colour again back in your cheeks perhaps, and you think, we've done all we can, you haven't done all you can. Until the decision is made, you've still got a window of opportunity between the pitch and the decision. Don't walk away from the pitch thinking that's the end. That is about 24, maybe mile 25 on a 26-mile marathon. And you come that far, so what can you do between the pitch and the decision to leave no stone unturned and really try and secure in the hearts and minds of your prospect that you are the right agency to go with? Follow up, ask if there's anything else you can do to help, show willing, don't be pushy, be supportive. Final 2, learn from every mistake you make. We've all done it. We've all lost some duffers. We've all said things we didn't mean to say. We've all pitched and perhaps could have put more preparation or more planning into it. And although you won't win every single pitch, what you can do is learn from every single pitch. The loss you get today is the preventative loss that you can bring in for tomorrow. Why you lost today doesn't need to be the reason why you lose tomorrow if you're willing to make the changes. So when you hear feedback, personal, individual, team-wise, business-wise, brand-wise or other, take it on the chin. Take it on the chin and learn from it. And last of all, never ever forget the value that comes from just sometimes being in the right place at the right time. So when you're on a tube, when you're on a train, when you're talking to a friend, a relative, no matter how young or old they may be, never forget life is one big pitch, and you never know that the next person you might just speak to at that opportunity that you captured in that little moment might just be your next big client. So pitch, pitch, pitch whenever you can.
If you enjoyed watching this video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you can stay up to date whenever we publish a new masterclass. Remember, our sponsor, The Advertist, is your survival toolkit for the world of new business and business development, and that's how we're able to bring you all these wonderful talks from such amazing talent. So we'll see you next time on the New Business Masterclass. I've been a Smith called Keith, and I wish you happy prospecting. Bye for now.